Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I'm so excited to be here with my friend Alessia. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Wait, so how did we meet? We met in the DMs, right?
We met on Instagram, yes.
We met on Instagram. I found you through Sweats in the City.
Yeah.
And I started doing your Alessia Sculpt, which is like your sculpt workout.
Yeah, online fitness platform. Yeah, almost like every day in COVID.
Yeah, I actually remember the first time I ever did it. I was like very nervous because I still at that time hated working out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being like, wow, this girl is so real. Like I had never seen a workout instructor who was like, oh shit, this is hard. Like in the middle of a workout.
I love that. I always like to say I'm in it with you.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm an instructor and I'm super, fit and really killing it and you're out there struggling. I'm in the struggle with you.
Yeah. I mean, it made you just so relatable because I feel like anytime I did someone else's platform, they were doing the craziest things and never even sweating. And it was nothing for them. And I was like, I need to know that I'm not the only one dying here on the other end of this computer.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's been so amazing to watch your journey with working out. From that to now, it's become such a part of your everyday life.
It really
I'm so
has.
proud of you.
Thank you. Okay, so I would love to start with a newer question that I've been asking guests, which is, what is your favorite romantic gesture?
For me, the most romantic thing is spending really present quality time with someone. I'm not about gifts. I just want someone to dedicate their time to me and really be in that moment with me. And that's the most romantic thing someone could do.
That's really cute. So would you say that your love language is quality time?
100%. With a sprinkle of words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm. Everyone could use a little word.
Yes.
Okay. And then how old are you and where are you from?
I'm 31 and I'm from Toronto, Canada.
I feel like we don't get enough Canadians on this podcast.
Well, here I am.
You're repping for everyone.
Yeah.
And what is your current relationship status?
I am recently single. That's the first time I'm really saying that publicly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the journey. I guess starting with when you first met your now ex-husband. I mean, is it officially an ex?
We are separated.
Okay.
So we're going through the process of getting a divorce. We were married for 4 years, but we've been together for 12 years since college. We met in third year of university in Canada at McGill. And we were together those entire 12 years. We never went on any breaks or anything. And he was from Montreal. I was from Toronto. And when we finished school, he actually moved from Montreal to Toronto for work and to be with, at the time it was for work, but really it was so we could stay together. And then we, moved in together in Toronto after a few years, got married. And we really had a beautiful relationship. He is such a good person to this day. I'll say that. I'll never say a bad thing about him. He's so wonderful. But we recently made the decision to split. Really, it wasn't a fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you first started dating him,
yeah.
Now that hindsight is 2020, and I know that you guys didn't have some tragic ending, let's say, mm-hmm. right? That with one of you cheating or anything like that. It wasn't dramatic in that way. But still, when you look back, do you think there were certain things in the beginning, I'm talking early on, that you were I don't know if that's going to work down the line? Or do you think that it was totally blindsided by love, didn't for a second think that one day your paths could separate?
I never thought for a second that our paths could separate.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we were so on the same page, and we really were up until the last few years. We were on the same sort of path, corporate jobs, wanted to, live in Canada, in Toronto, similar lifestyles. Our friends were so commingled. We had similar values. We wanted to eventually start a family, all these things. We were very much on the same page, except that I have evolved a lot over the last many years. So I was on a very direct path. I was living like corporate life. I worked in banking. And then my mom actually passed away in school. And after a few years of like dealing with that, I sort of started to shift and grow and really like lean into like living through my heart. I guess it's a weird thing to say, but like really feeling what was right and like going with that. And so what that, the first sort of big thing that happened was I switched my career. Like I had been working in finance, in banking for many years, and I didn't love it. It was really intense, really toxic. And I was on a path in that space, but I didn't love it. And I made the decision to leave and start my own fitness business. And then I became a content creator. And I just really started to like open up to the possibilities of life. It didn't have to be one way anymore. I was like, like I could do this, I could do that, I could live here, and I just like grew a lot. And Dylan, my ex, he was very much the same person throughout our relationship that he was when we met. Super like kind, reliable, like loyal, like solid man who wanted to, work and go on a few vacations a year and, live the life that like we had been talking about when we were in our early 20s.
Right.
And I sort of shifted over the last many years and I couldn't see that coming. It was a result of so many things. It was like processing my mom's death. It was like the career shift. It was everything. And yeah, I that happened over time. I couldn't have seen it when I was, 20.
You said your mom passed when you were in school. Was that before you met Dylan, during the early stages of your relationship, or once you were already established?
It was 6 months after we started dating. And he was so amazing and so supportive during that time. He actually met her, which is like crazy, like to think that we've been dating for that long. She's been gone for a while now.
Yeah.
So yeah, 6 months in, he was so supportive. I mean, he's the most supportive person. He's supportive about everything. He supported my career change, everything. But that made shit get real in our relationship really fast.
Yeah.
It's a big trauma and it's like a lot for, me to deal with, plus my partner and we're pretty new in our relationship, but he handled it so well. And I knew very early on through that experience that I could rely on him no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is a great feeling, which also makes you feel like much more close to somebody when you go through something like that. I mean, I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm.
When did you begin to realize that your relationship was changing in the way that you kind of just described, with you growing in one path and him staying in another?
It was about a year ago. It was once sort of the dust settled with my career change from finance to fitness. And once I was a little more established in that space, there wasn't like so many distractions. And also once the dust of like COVID settled and when we were kind of past that, once we had been married for a few years, it was about a year ago. And I really just started to think about like, what could my life like look like? Like, who am I? Who do I want to be? Like, now that I could, it's like I feel like you finish school and you try and get a job and then you get another job and then you want to get married. And then it's like all such a direct path. And then I really realized like a year ago, like, okay, but wait a second, like what is my life going to look like? Our life together. And we started having a lot of conversations about that. And I honestly, I brought it up to him like really openly. It wasn't like explosive fights. It wasn't like combative at all. It was like, I feel like I'm not necessarily getting like what I need in this relationship. And I'm not sure that you are either. So like, how are we going to move forward from here?
Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like at the end of your Saturn return, which a lot of people know who've been listening to the podcast is when your life changes a lot.
Yes.
Because you are also a listener of this podcast and you came prepared, will you share with us your big three?
Yeah, I'm a Taurus, and Cancer.
So Taurus rising and Cancer moon.
Yes.
And what is Dylan's?
I don't know his 3, but I know he's a Virgo.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And typically Virgo and Taurus are very compatible. So obviously, you know, that doesn't take away from the fact that you were compatible for so long.
Mm-hmm. We really were. We had a beautiful relationship and we were like the best of friends, like super supportive of each other, really respectful. We were a team. Like we really were doing life together. All of our, you know, like we planned like our home, like talking about potential future family. Like we really were compatible. We were on the same page. We'd always say like, we love spending time together. We're like best friends. But as people grow over time, we met when we were so young. And as people grow over time, that doesn't necessarily like stay consistent, you know? And we still, it's like, it's not for lack of love. We still love each other so much. It's just not the right time for us to be together right now, given where we're at in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of you, because I know you said you had discussions,
Mhm.
which one of you brought up the D word first? Like, is it something that kind of wasn't really even spoken about because it's like such a bad word in a relationship?
Yeah, we wouldn't really talk about divorce. It was more like we are at this pivotal place in our relationship where we are having some concerns and we don't have kids yet. So we need to figure out like, how can we move forward from here, hopefully together. And we tried so hard to work through it together. Like it was like a year of like constant conversations and trying and really like assuming that we would be together and that we would figure things out, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't
of
like,
course.
oh, okay, we're going to get a divorce now. And like, I don't even think about it like divorce. Like that word is so scary. Like I think about it like we are no longer together. We're separated. We're broken up. That word though, it's very scary. And it scared me for a long time. There was a lot of like guilt and shame associated with that word. And that stopped both of us. Actually, we talk about this now, how we feel like when you talk about 31 or 32-year-olds that are divorced, it's like, oh, like, did they just like give up on things? Like there's a lot of guilt and shame. And so we don't really like refer to it as that. It's more like, okay, we are not working together anymore and we're choosing to move forward like for ourselves, not like as a couple anymore. Does that make sense?
No,
like,
of course. I mean, there's a reason that Gwyneth Paltrow called it consciously uncoupling.
you know what? All my friends are telling me, you consciously uncoupled with Dylan.
But you did.
Yeah.
Like, I think a divorce is when you're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm taking the kids.
Yeah.
I never want to see you again. Like, that to me is a divorce. You guys made a decision that was extremely thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Whenever I think of my friends who have parents that are divorced and like hate each other, that's what I associate with divorce. But even then, it's like, I hate that it has such a negative connotation. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And it took me a very long time to get over that and understand that, well, I am getting a divorce, but that's okay because by ending my relationship and technically getting a divorce, it's opening me up to so many things in my life. And for so long, I was so scared to end my marriage. And I know you talk about this a lot on your podcast. And when you go on other podcasts, like the fear of leaving what you know, and it stops a lot of people. People feel really stuck. And for me, it's like, but the ending of that really opens up so many doors to my life that wouldn't have been possible. And I'm on this path for a reason. Like,
Right.
you know, things wouldn't end with Dylan if there wasn't some amazing bigger picture for me that I don't know about yet, but that I'm trusting is like in the works for me.
Which it 1000% is. Like, you can't have a new beginning without closing a door. That's just
Mhm.
not the way that it works.
And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can like start to rebuild. I was so scared. The biggest thing that stopped us for, you know, we had conversations for a year about this was our fears. And there was a few reasons why we were scared. One, like we both didn't want to make a permanent decision out of temporary feelings. Like, we weren't sure whether what we were feeling was like, okay, it's time to go in a different direction, or is this just what people talk about when they say marriage is hard? Like, that's really hard to know. And so we wanted to make sure enough time went by that we were so sure and at peace with the decision before, you know, we made it. And I also was really scared about leaving such a quality man. Like, I know that he is an amazing person. He's been nothing but so supportive. He supported my entire career switch. Like, he's very, I know that even if I called him today, he would pick up and be like, are you okay? Like, what can I do?
Right.
Which is so amazing, you know? So I was really scared of leaving someone so quality.
Yeah.
And I was really scared of just like the unknown. I've been with him my entire adult life. I've never dated. I've never been on an app until now. I've never dated as an adult. I was like, what? Like, it's just so overwhelming and so scary. But after so long, we both were like, okay, like, it's time.
Yeah. But in that time, like, at what point were you like, okay, it is time to give up versus keep fighting for it? Because, and I just recently did a video on this. It's like, when I have a fight with Steven, for example, like, I have to remind myself, like, this is a bad day, or this is a bad argument. This isn't a bad relationship. Not saying that your relationship was bad. You know what I'm saying? Though I'm just like, this is a moment. This isn't an overall. Like, how do you know when something is an overall? You know, is
That's
it like
such a good question?
It happens 80% of the time. You know, it's like, how do you even chalk that up? Like, are you keeping tab? You know,
For me, it was that I know this is the first time I'm really like talking about this. I haven't really even talked about this on social, but like, I was depressed for a lot of last year. And I felt like so stuck and like scared to make the wrong move. And like, I felt like there was this cloud over me that no matter what I did to feel good in myself, and no matter what Dylan and I were doing to work through things, I couldn't move past that. And at one point, what I realized was I've tried everything for this cloud to lift and nothing is working. So the one thing I haven't tried really is to be separate from Dylan.
yeah.
And I think he felt the same. Like, he had really dark, difficult times also. And it got to the point where it was like, but we've done it all. Like, we've tried all the things you could possibly try. And we're not even mad at each other anymore. We needed to walk toward ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I always say is like, I don't think Dylan and I actually told him this. We both had a really cathartic conversation a couple weeks ago about really ultimately why it didn't work. And it's like, we didn't walk away from each other. We both walked toward ourselves.
That's honestly beautiful. Like, I have the chills. Like, I might
I'm
cry.
like having a tear right now.
Yeah, no, me too. That's
Yeah.
like so perfectly said.
Yeah.
It's like crazy that hasn't been said by another like prophet before, because that was like
Wow,
spot on.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and it's
yeah.
the truth. It really is. It was like we both needed to put ourselves first.
Yeah. But I guess like when you are in a relationship and you have the feelings that you had of feeling depressed, I feel like sometimes we can be so insular and not think that the other person is feeling the way that we're feeling. Because honestly, that's so scary to think, right? Like, if you're feeling like, if I'm like, if for some reason I was like, oh, Alessia is being annoying, like, and for me to think that you were thinking that about me would give me so much anxiety, right? So it's like, in a couple, in a relationship, how do you know? Is it always like 100% true that the other person must be feeling something if you are, because you're so intertwined?
I would say maybe, but maybe at different times. Like, you are very intertwined, and you probably are feeling similar things, but maybe not always at the exact same time. And that's really what happened with Dylan and I, is like, I would feel one way and I would bring it up and he'd be like, whoa, but then a couple months later, he would feel one way and bring it up with me. And then I'd be like, whoa. And so we were definitely like in the same like realm, but not always exactly in sync and when we were feeling these things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I have so many questions.
Ask me them all.
I don't even know where to start.
I'm an open book today.
I love you. What would you have needed, if anything, to stay?
I needed him to want to be where I was without having to pull him along to do that.
Like it would have had to come naturally from him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't for him. I wanted to live a life of like adventure and exploring, and that doesn't necessarily like mean just travel. It does, but more than that, like just be open to what could happen with my work. Maybe I come to New York for a little bit, or maybe this opportunity comes up here or there, whatever. And I wanted him to want to be on that path with me.
Right.
And the reality was that like he didn't want that. He wanted to support me, and he was like, you do you, but I'm going to be right here. And I think vice versa. He was like, I want you to be happy in our life as is. And I was like, I am happy, but what about if we just considered that anything could happen and we could be on this ride together and just be open to the possibilities in life?
Right.
And it always felt like someone was sacrificing as opposed to both of us compromising.
Yep.
You know, and and we both, it was too much sacrifice at a certain point.
It reminds me of, have you ever seen The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn?
No, I don't think
so.
so.
You need to.
Okay.
You need to. But there's a scene where she like asks him about doing the dishes, and he like begrudgingly does the dishes or something. And she's like, I want you to want to do the dishes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about the fucking dishes. It's just the fact that I want you to want to do them. I don't want to have to force you to do them. And like, that's just such a metaphor for relationships. Like,
what's interesting is that was actually like that was actually more Dylan. We both wanted each other to want to do things that neither one of us like really wanted to do. Like I wanted to be open to the adventure of life. He wanted me to want to make our house a home.
Right.
And because he was the one who would lead, you know, cooking, cleaning, all this kind of like, just like our house, that was like so much more like him. And he wanted me to be happy there. And like, he couldn't make me do that. And I couldn't make him want to be like open to whatever came up with my career and all these things.
Yeah. How do you deal now with fear of regret from having gone through with this?
That was such a fear of mine. I was so scared to regret the decision. I've now realized that there is no right decision. You make a decision and you move forward with it. Yeah. And you understand that it couldn't happen any other way, because if it could have, it would have. Like, this is just my life now, and I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm moving toward whatever unknown is like in my future. And that, a lot of that has really come from me leaning into spirituality, which is something new for me. Like, I grew up Catholic, I'm Italian, I was forced to go to church, I never resonated with it. And in this process, I've really had to like lean into, there has to be this path for me that I just don't know about yet, or else like, how can I move forward? I needed that hope and that trust in the universe and not be scared of regret. How could you regret something if you're just on this path and every single thing that happens to you, you're learning from? And, you know, like you just, it would be so terrible to live a life of regret. I would hate that. So, and I was really scared of it for so long, honestly. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't regret anything. Everything is bringing me to the experiences that I'm supposed to be having in this life. And if that means ending my relationship at 31 and now being single, like, okay, well, there's got to be some great things that are going to come from that.
There will be. And I love the way that you just look at that, because that's so true, not just with ending a relationship, but with anything in life. There was a reason that you made the decisions that you made. Was there one, I know that it was conversations that you had with Dylan, but looking back, was there any one moment where you knew you were better off apart? Like, even if it was just like, you know, you were at a dance club and you saw like another person, like a happy couple, and you were just like, that's never going to be, you know, like a kind of actual moment in time.
That's such a good question.
I can't believe I just said dance club. Like, I feel like that aged me like 90 years.
Really true.
What's a dance club?
I'm not sure that there was. I'm having really struggling to come up with like a distinguished moment. I think there was a culmination of many moments that built up into its time.
Yeah, that's fair. So many questions. How did your family react? How did you tell them? And in what ways were they supportive or not supportive?
I actually waited until we had been separated for a few months to tell them, which is unusual. I have a bit of a tumultuous relationship with my family. I have a really modern family. As I said, my mom passed away when I was 19 years old, 20 years old. My dad has since remarried to someone a lot younger. They have a new baby. He's now almost 3, but, you know, a baby. I have a little half brother. And they're very much like in their own lives. And our relationship is great in so many ways, but in some ways, like, it's hard. Like, I'm a full 31-year-old adult and they have this whole, you know, family unit. And so I actually didn't tell them right away. It took me a couple months. I think I really needed to process it on my own first. But when I did tell them, they were like, well, we just want you to be happy. And if this is you being happy and like choosing yourself, then we are supportive of you. One thing I did talk to my dad about things kind of earlier on, loosely, and he had said, I love Dylan. I think he's such an amazing person. There's not one bad thing I could say about him, but I do think he's holding you back a little bit in your life. And that was a while ago that he said that. We didn't separate for a while after that. And it's so crazy to think about that, being like, he saw that like really before I did.
Yeah.
Or that either one of us did. And I do want to clarify, like I say, you know, he was holding me back, but I think we were holding each other back in different ways. Of course. Like, I'm always so cognizant of being really respectful of him and giving him credit because he's on his own path.
Right.
Know? Yeah.
That like freaks me out almost in a way, because like whether it's our parents or our best friends or our siblings, depending on, you know, who really knows us, it's like these people have the answers. They're just not, they just like wait for things to play out almost. Like, I bet you can think of someone right now that you know is better off without their partner, or is better off at a different job, or is better off, you know, I don't know, moving to Kansas, whatever it is. And you're not going to say anything to them unless they come to you and say, Alessia, do you think I'm better off moving to Kansas? And then you're going to be like, well, yes, I've always thought that. And so it's so crazy. And this happens all the time, right? It's like you get a divorce or you break up and your friend's like, I never liked them. And it's like, of course, you know, they couldn't have said anything, but to know that they had the answer the whole time, I imagine that happens in so many situations. And like, isn't that just kind of freaky?
It is freaky, but I feel like you gotta let people come to the decision on their own.
Of course. I mean, that's why you don't say anything to anyone. Also, what if, God forbid, you're wrong? Yes. What if you upset them and then they cut you out?
Resentment forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know my dad told me that, but I still took so long to come to that realization on my own or with Dylan.
Right.
And what about if I had made a decision based on that, based on like an outsider's observation, and then maybe regretted it. You know what I mean? That's where regret comes in, when you don't trust your own instincts.
Yeah.
You look outside of yourself for the answers. And the reality is no one can give you the answers. Like your family can't, your friends can't. They can observe and give like suggestions, or even a therapist. Like therapists can't give you the answers. You have to like really go inward in yourself and come to that realization and conclusion on your own, so that you can A, like make the decision, but B, like live with yourself going forward, you know?
No, of course. I mean, I don't know if I've said this on this podcast, but my dad said like the same thing to me in my last relationship.
You told me that.
Oh yeah, I did.
You told me that. And I told you what my dad said when we were at lunch.
Yes.
And I remember it stuck with me, and you were like, dads know best.
They fucking do. I hate it. But yeah, no, he sat me down and, was like, I think it was because I was thinking about freezing my eggs, which like dads also do not understand. But he took that as me saying like, I'm freezing my eggs because I don't know if I want to be with the person I'm currently with. I was thinking of freezing my eggs because I wanted like 27-year-old eggs, or 28-year-old eggs, but whatever. And so he was like, I'm hearing this, and what I'm really hearing is that you don't want to be with your partner. But also he said something like, I feel like because I'm the kind of person that will not send back my pasta if it sucks. Like I will eat that pasta with a smile on my face, tell them it was amazing, give them a tip, like 20%. It's not that I'm fake in that way. I'm just like such a Libra, and that like I don't want to rattle feathers. I would rather just be like, everything was amazing, thank you, than be like, this pasta is terrible, give me new pasta. And granted, like I've been in a more aggressive mood where I have sent back a thing before, but my default is to just eat it. And he's like, I feel like you are acting like you do with the pasta at restaurants and just eating this. And like that really fucked me up. And then similar to you, it then took like another year for me to actually, maybe it was more like 6 months, but for me to actually do something, because I was like, you know what? This is what he thinks. I don't feel this way. Then eventually I was like, well, I feel this way.
Do you know you told me that same story when we had lunch?
Yeah.
And it stuck with me so much. I think about it. I thought about it all the time for months after you told me. I kept being like, am I just not sending back the pasta because I'm too scared to do it? No, I'd literally do that. Think that way.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show how much being open is so helpful for other people, especially women with women. Like I have been dealing with something recently and I didn't want to be open about it for so long. Now that I'm open about it, so many other women are open about it. They have similar stories. So it's just like, even just talking about this breakup, like I bet when you shared on your Instagram, because I know you did recently with a reel, how many DMs did you get?
Hundreds of people who had gone through the situation already, similar, where, they had been with their partner for a long time and it wasn't the right fit anymore, just simply going through a breakup or thinking about doing that, or even just like any big life transition. Literally hundreds of people. And I was hesitant to share it on social. It's very deeply personal. Dylan and I have a super amicable relationship. I didn't want to do anything disrespectful. I actually sent him that video before I posted it, and it was like, I want to make sure you're okay with this because it's about to go, and he was like, I understand, like I support you, sort of thing. But I was overwhelmed by the positive response, and I felt like, how could I not have shared this? After getting all those DMs, I was like, that's how people get through things. You share and you find commonalities and you understand you're not alone. And if I can turn my situation that was extremely difficult into something that's positive, that's inspiring, that's encouraging people to choose themselves, even when it's really hard, to do something really brave, relationship or otherwise, then like, why not? And I got so many messages and I was like, oh, I feel like I did the right thing, Yeah,
and it must be such a relief because, like, I think especially you don't like to pretend everything's perfect. That's just not who you are.
No.
So to be going through, the highlight reel without having to be able to say what's really going on must have been really hard for so long.
It was so hard. It took such a toll on me. My brand and who I am is very open, very raw, real, authentic. Like I show the in-between moments normally. And to be going through all of this and having so many extremely low days and not being able to share that, it really took me down. Like I would often just have to go off social completely because I was like, I just cannot show up right now. So to then share it, it was such a relief on its own, plus the positive aspect of like so many women resonating with the message and it being so inspiring to people was like, oh, it felt so right.
Yeah. And I also loved the way that you had responded. I remember like the first inkling I had that something was wrong was, you had looked like you had lost weight. And I remember somebody had asked you about it in like a question thing, and you immediately had like the perfect response, and you were like, I forget how you worded it, but it was something like when people comment on people's weight and people's appearance, or they say like, you look amazing, like I might look amazing, I've never felt worse, or something like that. And it's like, it just goes to show that like people need to stop being like, oh my God, you lost weight or you look so skinny or blah, because you just never know what's going on with someone. And you said repeatedly, you were like, when I'm at my lowest weight, I am my least happy.
Yeah.
And just to hear that, and I'm sure if I were like a 14-year-old girl following you, I'd be like, oh my God, I never thought about it like that. And like, I don't want to be at my lowest weight because I don't want to be unhappy,
For sure. And I appreciate that so much. For me, when I'm stressed and going through a lot, my appetite goes. When my mom passed away, I lost a drastic amount of weight when I was going through this separation, and I still, I'm coming out of it. I lost a lot of weight, and it's just like you never know what's going on in someone's life. So to judge from the outside, a lot of people think losing weight is like such a positive thing. It's like, actually, I was going through the hardest moments of my life, and that's something that I am super cognizant about on social. Is it might look so amazing, but really what's going on inside can be so hard, and the physical doesn't represent, necessarily the emotions that are happening and things behind the scenes.
No, of course. So now, as a single woman, I'm assuming that you've gone out on dates, or maybe you're starting to think about going out on dates. You said you are exploring the apps. I'm curious because a lot of people ask me about this, and I can't really speak to it the way that I'm sure you can. But when into dating would you bring up the loss of your parent and also the divorce? But,
Yeah, that's a great question. I saw that you answered a poll question that was to bring up the divorce or that you were previously married on date one, and I disagree.
Tell me.
Okay, so I would do date one. And I have been dating. I've been like having fun dating, like nothing serious. Day one would be, I treat it like the way you suggest, is like you're making a new friend. Just more surface, like really light, and see if there's a connection there. I don't tell people that I'm married, or I was married, and technically legally still am, but that I'm going through a divorce until date 2 or 3 if I think it's gonna be something, or might be something. And same thing for the loss of my mom. I wouldn't usually bring it up on date 1. I would say date 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes when things are like, when you bring up really heavy things, like it just like changes the vibe, changes the mood. And I want to make sure that I like someone before I bring up like the intense stuff,
Yeah, that's fair.
And I want to make sure that there's a connection with them before like we go there.
That makes a lot of sense. And actually, I think my views are now changed on that.
Oh, good.
Because I didn't have the perspective of coming from a divorce or coming from having lost a parent. And that makes a lot of sense. But I'm curious, like on the first date, like if we were on a date, if I'm on a first date, I usually will be like, so when was your last relationship? Maybe that's a question I shouldn't be asking on first dates, but luckily I don't, whatever.
No one has asked me that on a first date.
Really?
Yeah,
but if they did, would you just say like, oh, it ended a few months ago, and not like get into specifics of the fact that it was a divorce?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say it ended last year. It was a long-term relationship. We were together for a really long time, and I would keep it brief. I would only share the more intense stuff like once I feel connected connected and like I can trust that person.
I think that you are so spot on with this. And I love when my views change, like truly.
I love that too.
Because I actually went out on a few dates with a guy and he had just lost his dad. And I remember not being into it, but feeling so guilty about not continuing to see him because he had opened up about something so intense. And I continued to see him simply because he had lost his dad and I didn't want him to like lose another, for
That's
real.
So nice of you.
And I just like felt so bad. But I remember thinking like, like this isn't why you should be continuing to go out with someone. Like if he hadn't told me, then I would have just ended it. But now, and it's like it puts you in this weird place.
It should be based on the connection, and same values. And if you vibe, not because there's any sort of like guilt or like whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question for you, and then we're going to do some rapid fire.
Okay.
Is you had mentioned mushrooms have helped you heal. I, before getting sober, was a huge chocolate mushroom gal, probably too much, which is, hence being sober. But I know that they are used in healing ways as well. I was only using them in party ways. What have you learned about mushrooms and, safely and the use of them to get closer and deeper with yourself?
I love this question. And this is really, truly the first time I'm talking about this because I did sort of keep it to myself for a while because it's becoming more open, but it has been pretty taboo. So I do mushrooms in like a very controlled, kind of more serious setting. Well, I microdose and a lot of people do on a regular basis, but like larger doses, this is not like party setting mushrooms when you're like up at a cabin or cottage or with friends or like whatever. It's not like that. I go to this wellness retreat and I do these ceremonies, and they're really, mushrooms are amazing, especially in bigger doses, because they help you heal your trauma by getting to like the root of what you really need. So you could be going to therapy. I've been going to therapy intensively for the last year, and that's something we haven't talked about, but I was doing intensive solo therapy plus group therapy, this divorce therapy, which was amazing. And I was talking a lot about what was going on in that, and also the trauma of losing my mom. But it was a lot of talking. What happened when I really dove deep into mushrooms and did them in this like serious ceremonial way was I had these experiences of like sitting with my mom side by side and her apologizing to me for everything that happened, in my childhood, and me apologizing to her for the things that I did, and literally feeling like I had this night sitting with her and understanding each other. And I know this might sound like so woo to some people, but like actually physically having that experience when on mushrooms, as opposed to just talking about it. And both of those two things together helped me like really heal the trauma of losing my mom, of understanding that she did the best that she could as a mother, and forgiving her for the areas that, she maybe wasn't like the best.
Sure.
So both of those things together got me to this place of like being able to like breathe fully and like deeply and like settle into like the path that I've been on. And same with my separation from Dylan, having these experiences on mushrooms where I'm like, I saw in my mushroom ceremony that I was going to be okay, no matter which path I took. Not my therapist telling me you're going to be okay no matter what. No, like I had this experience of like seeing my future kind of both ways and being like, okay, both ways I'm going to be good. And it's just such a like I don't know what the word is, but it's just you really like when you feel it in your heart, because you've experienced it on the mushrooms, you really trust it more. And so that, I know that might sound crazy to a lot of people.
No, I don't think it's crazy at all. I didn't have any guided experiences, but I had an experience when I was on mushrooms and I was dating someone at the time and I saw them negatively. Like I was like, I hate this guy. Like I don't want to be with him at all. And then tried to like ignore it in my, sober state. And then it came back. So I do think that mushrooms reveal a lot to you.
I think they really reveal what you need to see, not necessarily what you want, but like really what you deeply need.
Yeah.
It's the mushrooms, but it's also the ceremonial like way that I do them is you're off your phone, you're in this room with all these other people for like 6-7 hours. And you also, sometimes it's like a weekend retreat too, where your phone's off. So you're really in the moment, and it gives you time to think about and pause to think about what you really want. It's like a quicker way to get to that place of like knowing than meditation. Like meditation is a similar thing. You sit there for 10, 15, 20 minutes and you pause your life and you tune into yourself so that you can really feel what's in your heart. At least that's how I treat like my meditation.
Yeah.
Because how can you know what you want without pausing and being still? Well, mushrooms is essentially that, but like enhanced with like they call it the medicine with the mushrooms, that you can get to that place of like knowing and clarity faster and on a more like accelerated level. So actually those are the three things, if I had to say what honestly saved my life last year, what really changed me and got me to this place of peace, it would be therapy plus the mushrooms plus the meditations and every day. They all worked together.
Yeah. And you guys went to couples therapy also, right? I'm just pulling up questions.
Yep. We did briefly. We actually didn't explore that as much as like we probably should have. We both were in individual therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would come together and have conversations from our individual therapies. And by the time we talked about doing couples therapy, it was kind of like already to the point where we had just like we were going our own ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think what's most important is that both of you were in therapy, regardless of whether it was couples or not.
We both were in therapy. We both took it super seriously, like every week, every couple weeks, and really, really benefited from it. I would say if anyone's going through a similar situation, individual therapy, couples therapy for sure. That's something I kind of wish we did sooner, but again, everything happens exactly as it's supposed to, or I wish we did it more. But also the group therapy that I did was really helpful. So I did this divorce group therapy with like 8 or 10 people and I did 2 different sort of sessions of it. They were
with Dylan?
Not with Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like me and 8 or 10 other people who are also going through intense breakup or a separation or a divorce. And it was 8-week sessions. It was led by my therapist and her friend who's a divorce coach. And every week we would share, and then there would be a topic of discussion and like things like acceptance and forgiveness and all those. Like there would be a one each week. What was really amazing though was connecting with other people who were going through similar things. And that made me feel so much less alone. And it gave me so much more confidence to walk into this next chapter.
Right.
Knowing that I was going to be okay. And you would see over the 8 weeks that someone would have gotten separated in week 2. And then by week 8, you could see the shift like, oh, okay, they're doing better. It gave me a lot of hope.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of hope that no matter what, it was going to be okay. So I would so recommend that.
Yeah. I am a huge fan of group therapy. I wouldn't have gotten sober without it. So.
Okay, good.
Okay. We're going to do some fun rapid fire.
Okay.
To lighten the,
I know this was
the
intense.
ending. No, but it was good intense.
This is the first time I've talked about this. You're my friend. I felt like this was such a beautiful, safe space for me to like, share
this
openly.
This is like
so
one of my
you.
favorite episodes in a long time. How often do you compliment men? 0 times a week, 1 to 2 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week?
I'm going to say 1 to 2 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Depends which men.
Yeah. Significant other says he doesn't want to go to a party with his friends because a girl he had a 6-month relationship with 8 years ago will be there. No big
red
deal.
Red flag.
Yeah, what? Like, get over it,
yeah,
bro.
like, no, that's immature.
Yeah. Do your hips hurt after sex?
I saw that poll yesterday. Yeah, in certain positions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do your legs shake after sex?
No.
Someone wrote back to me and they go, good sex.
Yeah, whole body shakes after good sex.
Do you feel like if you have sex more often, it's harder for you to finish?
No, I feel the opposite. I feel like the more sex I have, the more into it I am, the more connected I feel. So it's easier to finish.
Yeah. Fair. Would you end a 6-month relationship if your significant other refrained from having sex with you for over a month?
Yes. Well, first I would ask why. Like I would communicate. Like that's a bit sus. But but then if there was no real like legitimate answer, then yeah, probably.
Right. When someone reacts to your Insta story, do you like/respond to their reaction or do nothing?
I like it.
Yeah. I find it's rude if you don't do anything.
I agree.
Like unless you're a celebrity.
You're right. But are you checking your DMs if you are?
Right. Okay. Have you ever cried during sex?
Yes, but more like right after.
The guy you've been seeing, and me too, by the way. The guy you've been seeing now, 29, told you he cheated on his girlfriend in early college and regrets it. Red flag, deal breaker, or no big deal?
I would say a no big deal / red flag. It was so long ago, college, as long as they really seem like they've evolved and learned from it.
How many dates is it okay to start inviting them on group things with your friends? 3 to 4, 5 to 6, or only once official?
Like 5 to 6. I saw these polls yesterday. I was ready.
You were ready.
I was ready.
So ready. You're like the only person that hasn't like lingered for an hour on one of these rapid fires. This was so amazing. Can you leave us with a quote or piece of advice?
Yes. My favorite quote right now that my therapist tells me all the time as I'm entering into this new stage of my life, being single. And that is, I am never by myself. I'm always with myself. And that gives me so much comfort that I'm never really alone.
You never are.
No.
Thank you so much. Where can everybody find you, follow you, and sign up for Sculpt?
Yes, I'm at Alessia Sculpt on Instagram and TikTok. And I have my online fitness platform, asculptbody.com. I have a 7-day free trial. I would love to have you. Lindsey loves the workouts, so I think you will too.
You will. Check it out.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsey. I'm so grateful.
This was so great.
Yay!